Through the chair, you're live on HCAM TV.
Thank you. Rob is not here today, so I will be sharing, checking to see who is here. Do not see a quorum yet. So give people a few more minutes. I believe we have a quorum now, but I believe we are missing still Michael, Parker, and is Vic off camera? Is he not on?
Yes, I've joined. It
Okay.
shows as VV. I'm driving actually. So, I might have to take some time to mute and unmute myself. But
No worries. Wasn't sure if that was you or somebody else.
It was me. Not sure why it says VV on the name out here. That's awesome.
Okay, so I think it's just Michael and Parker that we're missing. John, we're expecting them as far as you know, right?
Yes, I've only heard from Rob.
Okay. It's only one after. We'll give them another couple minutes just in case there's any technical issues. And
Parker just joined.
I'll give Michael another till 7:04 on my clock. Just waiting another 20 seconds or so, and then we'll get started. All right, we've got 7:04. Bob is not here today, so I will be chairing the meeting. I will begin with the remote meeting script. John, feel free to interrupt me if I miss something out of this. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted via remote means in accordance with applicable law. This means that members of the public body, as well as members of the public, may access this meeting via virtual means. Participants may access this meeting through the remote meeting link as posted on the meeting agenda and through the town's online calendar. When required by law or allowed by the chair, persons wishing to provide public comment or otherwise participate in the meeting may do so by raising their hands or otherwise signaling their intents to speak. This meeting will be recorded. Please take care to mute your microphone unless you have been recognized by the chair. We will now confirm attendance of members. Please respond with present if you are on this call. Members of the planning board, Robert Benson is not here. Elise Mielowski,
Here.
Lucia Lopez,
Present.
Michael King,
Present.
Parker Happ,
Present.
Jane Moran,
Present.
Karen Wills,
Present.
Vikasith Prati,
Present.
and Matthew Ronca, myself, is present. Staff, John Gelsich
Present.
and Lori St. John.
Present.
Okay, let me move that out of the way. We'll start with administrative items. My goal, first item up we've got is MBTA communities discussion continuing. If this goes longer than 30 minutes, my plan is to move B and C to the Form K and the minutes to the end of the meeting. Otherwise, we'll just continue on with those. Zach met last week to discuss this. Sean, do you want to kind of start with a summary of that? Or are you not ready yet for any feedback from that?
Sorry, was that to me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was doing something else. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, so I was just saying that the zoning advisory committee met last week to discuss some of the directions that we had given them. They had looked at the apartments in Legacy as well as the Windsor apartments, and I really appreciate how in depth they went into for I don't know how long it was, an hour and a half plus, including looking at some of the old maps they had looked at during the first round. I was wondering if there was any update that you want to provide from that, or just that they're still digging into some of the information.
Yeah, still digging into some of the information. Spoke to town council and talked to Zach about it, but Woodview at Hopkinton, which is Legacy Farms, would not be eligible for a variety of reasons. The main thing being it's built under the master plan special permit, and you wouldn't be able to take it out. We wouldn't be able to take that parcel out of the development without a whole series of things. So we were pretty confident internally that if we were to include that, the state would reject that as an eligible parcel. Still a little bit of investigation needed for whether Windsor would be eligible. There was a host community agreement with that development for, I think, water and sewer, or at least for water, some utilities. And so they want us to look into that. But then they identified some other parcels to investigate in place of those two. One of them being Indian Brook condos, another one being Walcott Valley condos. So the next meeting, I believe it's looking like it's going to be on August 26th. It might be August 12th, but it looks like most of the ZAC members are able to make the August 26th meeting. So we'll probably schedule it then, which is when we're going to really look at these new parcels that they suggested and try and hopefully line up something that they can bring to the planning board as an alternative option.
Thanks, John. So I think we've reserved this spot for public feedback as well as ongoing planning board discussions. I'm going to start by asking if anybody on the planning board has any thoughts on what John just said, or as they've been thinking about this over the past couple of weeks, anything else they want to add to the discussion before we open up to the public. Lucia.
Yeah, so I watched the ZAC meeting. Sorry if my voice, I'm getting over a cold. And one of the things that I found interesting was the number of parcels that they have considered and all of the reasons why those parcels have been rejected. And I had the thought that maybe that would be a slide or something to prepare for if we go to special town meeting, just to give people an idea of the different things that have been, the different areas in town that have been considered and the various reasons for which those parcels were not chosen versus whatever parcels do end up being chosen.
Thank you. I think that's a really good idea that we should keep in mind as we prepare. Any other feedback from the board?
The only other thing I would add, Matt, is they were potentially looking for guidance from the planning board if we had any additional input. So I think that was like brought up a few meetings ago where we were less prescriptive with what our asks were. So if there are additional like parcels that we want them to look at, I think now would be the time to suggest any others. I don't know, John, if you disagree with like that sentiment, but that's, another key point that I, pulled out of the meeting too.
John, any?
Yeah,
feedback?
no, I think Parker's right.
Anybody else have any comments? Anybody else either about what Zach had investigated, been looking at, or anything we should be considering as we think about presenting again at special town meeting, likely in December?
I just had one thought. I know a
Yeah,
few
Jane?
years ago when we were discussing the solar panel bylaw or the solar array bylaw, we ended up as a planning board suggesting to present the first plan that we wanted to present and failed, and then the second one that ultimately passed. So that might be an option, because I felt that the last planning board meeting, there were quite a few members who felt that the first map that we worked on and failed at the last town meeting was actually a pretty good one. So there might be a way to pull that thought process into it as well.
So are you suggesting
2 articles at
2
town meeting.
articles?
The first one fails, then you can jump to the second one. And during this whole conversation, we could just help the folks, the citizens, understand how important it is that we have to pass something.
Through the chair, we've
John?
broached that subject with town council and just trying to figure out a way to go about that. I think town council actually said they may think it's cleaner to do both options as one article, but we're still working through all those details and how to go about it.
So if we were to do that, it would have, I guess we'll wait to see what town council says before asking hypotheticals.
Yeah, it would depend. It would be a lot of language things, depending on what the motion is what would then pass in the article. And yeah, not worth getting into it in detail now until we have something to look at.
It's a good idea, Jane. Thank you, John, for the update on practicality of that. Any other comment from the board? Seeing none, I'll open up a comment to the public. Please use the raise hand feature or gesture wildly if you're on camera, and I'll call on you. I don't see any hands raised yet. I'll give a minute or so and see if anybody is just having technical issues. Want to make sure that people have an opportunity to be heard. If anybody has any questions about things that have been discussed in past meetings, or just questions about the MBTA community bylaws in general, now is a good time. Okay. Any last comments from the board, as I see no hands raised?
I was going to say one other thing, Matt, which is I've been doing additional research and reached out to representatives from the state, some other, fuel in our fire for why we can, compel a positive vote at town meeting is the state has opened up a $15 million fund that will help support capital projects in MBTA community zones. And just sharing my screen really quick. Oh, I can't share it. Well, I one of the big things that I think that we need to be conscious of is the preserve, obviously. And I was doing, can I share? It says I still can't share. I was doing research about their PFAS issue. If anybody isn't aware of what PFAS are, it is contamination in water as a result of what are called forever chemicals. So there's firms like DuPont or 3M or Wolverine Chemical that have been held liable for billions of dollars. And these funds are available to communities to be able to input water mitigation efforts to cleanse sources of water of PFAS. And if you look at the preserve, according to the updated EPA recommendations for what is a recommended parts per trillion of PFAS, the preserve exceeds the recommended amount based on the new guidelines that were updated by the EPA this year. And so I think, it should be noted for folks in that community that if, for example, the Carbones property were developed and water was brought down, that there could be an opportunity for them to benefit from, this proposal and to potentially have a mechanism to tap into town water and not have contaminated water with chemicals that are known to cause harm to you. So there's some new carrots that are coming out, whereas I also learned I was wrong, that this isn't an unfunded mandate, that the state has put forth considerable funds to help us bring this plan forward. So I think there's just some real positives that we can highlight about the map. Yeah, that's just some additional research that I'm doing to try help us all craft a real positive plan for folks long term.
Thank you, Parker. I believe there was somebody nominated to be a liaison from the school committee, but I don't know if that person is here. I'm just wondering if anybody from the school committee has any feedback, because I know Dr. Kavanaugh was looking at some of the numbers and concerns they might have, since that was a question that was raised.
I don't know if we have a member from the school committee, but I also brought that up with the state, and there are reports out that suggest that the single biggest driver of school enrollment is not mixed use. It is actually single family homes. And there was a 2018 study that was done, which, if I can pull it up, the statistics really, 2017 report that was released by the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, MAPC, an additional updated report, and also the town of Hopkinton released a demographic information and enrollment projections report in 2018. And all the reports highlight that existing home sales, especially those of 3 to 4 bedroom single family homes, births, and simply housing growth of new permits of single family homes contribute more to the driving of enrollment than would be mixed use zoned properties or anything that's like quasi commercial and residential. Matt, you had highlighted this a little bit in your last, or one, I think it was one of the last meeting or the meeting before, about how I think it was like a 0.2 per student rate of like 0.27, and you could expect, even with a maximalist vision on what the plan would result in student enrollment, would be no more than like 30 students. And comparable to legacy farms, for example, and according to WGBH, that did a report on the legacy farm development back in, I think it was 2021, they'd said that there were more than 350 students that resulted from those single family developments. So 27, 350, I understand the town is looking to avoid growth and we don't want to see taxes increase, but it's a good plan that we have. And according to this data and the statistics, there's a lot of upside. So just for whatever that's worth, but maybe somebody from a liaison from the school committee has additional information or details.
Yeah, I think they're still looking for the updated numbers just to make sure that there hasn't been any significant changes. Although I think the numbers that I have is 0.2 per So 0.2 per house. So it came out to about 24 to 30, as you said, if the Carbonis were fully developed based on some big broad numbers. Okay. Last call for any feedback, or we'll move on to, I see somebody raising a finger. I can't, Mr.
Roy
McDowell?
McDowell.
Yep. Was addressing name, please. Yeah.
Roy McDowell, based on development. Would you be interested in the developer's perspective on this?
Yeah, we'll listen. We'll listen to a developer perspective.
I believe the mandate is what?
Sorry, my speaker cut out.
I'm sorry. I believe isn't the MBTA requirement 15 units to the acre up to?
The average density has to be 15 units per acre, I believe. Yes.
Yeah. Well, just to kind of put it from a mathematical point of view, looking at it from the developer's point of view, a piece of land per 15 units per acre, a couple of years ago when the market was better, was about 50,000 a unit. Right now it's 40. So let's call it 50. 50 times 15, that's $750,000 an acre, which with a development piece of land would be worth fully permitted for apartments. So why wouldn't you consider looking at a fairly dense populated area? I don't know if Legacy itself would be an example, but the reality is if you've got a $750,000 home on a half an acre or even a quarter of an acre, or even a whole acre, it would make no economic sense to try and put together multiple parcels of multiple homes to try and develop apartments. You could put the overlay zoning on that area, but it'll never happen. So that might resolve the town's issue, at the same time, not worry about it actually happening.
Thank you. The financial aspect of that is helpful for us to keep in mind. Economic aspect. Any other feedback from anybody? Anybody in the public? Nobody else from the board? All right. If not, we'll move over to the Form K. Sean, do you want to just give a quick summary?
Sure. Sorry, it sounded like you said Sean. I know you're saying John, but it just
Sorry,
that's
John.
what's throwing me off. I'm hearing Sean. I'm like, I don't know who Sean is. Anyway, the Form K is basically a formality at this point. Legacy Farms was developed as a subdivision. Partially, there was roads that were constructed. So to release the lots, excuse me, to release the lots to be sold, they need to be released from the subdivision agreement. And so this is for the pickleball facility that was recently approved by the planning board. They want to sell the property to the person who wants to develop the pickleball facility. So they need to go through this process of releasing the lot from the subdivision. So same as any other subdivision, we would just have the planning board vote to endorse the Form K. And there's a restricted land covenant that goes along with it as well. That's part of the whole Legacy Farms agreement. As within the master plan special permit, there's a certain amount of open space. I think it's like over 500 acres that needs to be designated as restricted land. And there's different types of restricted land, natural state, forget what the other ones are, but this one's a natural state one. So basically it's saying, we're going to preserve, I think it's like 1 point something acres as natural state, or 2.25 acres, sorry. And substantially its natural state. So the board would need to endorse the Form K and sign the restricted land covenant for this property. And one of the things that we can do is, the Form K, all the board members need to sign. The restricted land covenant only needs one member to sign. Usually it's the chair, but we can also designate somebody else. You can designate me, you can designate vice chair, or any member that's going to be able to get to town hall fastest. And then they can sign on the board's behalf as long as the board makes that motion to allow for that.
Any questions from the board? Lucia.
I did have a question about the natural state portion of that. So in reading through the restricted land covenant, portion of that, it specifies that residents of Hopkinton will have access on some of these lands if there are designated trails on them only. Is this one of those parcels that would allow for trail access or not?
John?
I'll defer to Roy, but I'm going to guess no because it's probably disconnected from much of the site.
It's typically most of the property, it's a little over 505 acres that's been restricted. There are a significant number of trails, and there are more trails that are going to be going in. We're working with some local groups in Hopkinton to add additional trails. But the reality is there may not be a trail through this piece, but if someone wants to walk through it, no one's going to bother them.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? I think John would be the quickest person to get the town hall to sign this. Do we have anybody see a problem with John being the named person authorized to sign the restricted land covenant?
Nope.
All right.
Just to clarify, it's just for the restricted land covenant, not for the Form K. So 5 of you would still have to come in for the Form K.
Good reminder. So seeing no other comments, I'll entertain a motion to move that the planning board endorse the Form K for 124 East Main Street and to authorize John Gelsich to sign the restricted land covenant for this property on its behalf.
So moved.
Second.
All right, and since we were remote, let me see if I can pull up the list of everybody's names to make sure I don't miss anyone. Elise, how do you vote?
Yes.
Lucia,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Vic. Take us off. Still here. Can't scroll all the way down.
Looks like he just is rejoining.
Give him a second.
Yes. Sorry.
Oh, it's yes. Okay, that was a yes. And Matthew Vronka is also a yes. So that passes unanimously. Next,
Thank you very much.
no worries. Next, we have the minutes. We're still in our 30-minute window. Any suggestions or edits for the minutes from July 15th?
I thought they looked fine.
I did have
There's-
two suggestions. Yep, Parker.
Yeah. No, go ahead. My name's misspelled. It says Parker Happy. I am happy, but there's a couple typos.
Okay, so we'll assume that we can generally say that we want to have Parker's name fixed. That shouldn't be a problem, right, John? I had two other changes that I want to propose if there were no objections from the rest of the board. One was, I think they're both on page 3. One was under the section of Robert Corner had asked for clarification on the affordable housing requirements, and it just says Mr. Benson responded. I would like to amend that to include the substance of his response to the effect of amending that it was below the threshold requiring an affordable unit. Has anybody seen an objection to that? I've lost my Zoom window somehow.
How does this improve the context, just to clarify? I'm not sure I understand the edit.
So it mentions that Rob responded, but it didn't explain what his response was.
Okay.
And so I just want to capture the substance of the response.
Got it.
Also in that section on page 3, I wanted to change the word questioned to inquired about in the first two instances that it appears. I thought that was more specific, that we were inquiring about aspects rather than questioning the aspects, alternate meanings of questions. Any objections to any of that?
No.
Does the staff have any questions about the proposed changes before we vote on the minutes?
I don't have any. Oh, sorry. Lucia's got her hand up.
Lucia, you have
I
a,
was just gonna say Vic's last name is also misspelled. It says pretty.
pretty and happy, that's the board.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lucy. I was just going through that.
Gotcha.
Through the chair, just since you recognized us as staff, just want to throw this out there again. Not that this happened right now, but the minutes are not supposed to be a transcript of the meeting. They're just supposed to be a general accounting of what happened. And for anyone making edits, again, no one did this today, but I'm just throwing it out there. It's not what you wanted to have said, it's what you said. We've had that problem in the past, and so it's kind of tough to tell people that. So I'm just going to tell you up front, the minutes are what happened at the meeting, not what you would like to have said if you had a better way of saying it. So
It's a good comment, John. If you think that we were incorrect, please do.
nope, I would say something if I did, but Lori and I had talked about it last week, so I promised her I would mention it.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for making that comment. In that case, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as with the amended comments, the amendments.
So moved.
Second?
Which case I'll go through a roll call vote. Elise,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
sorry, I went out of order. Lucia,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Vic,
Yes.
and Matthew Bronco, myself, yes. Moving on. So we're all right for a continued hearing. We don't need to reopen, right, John?
Correct.
That's correct.
All right. So moving on to 24 Chestnut. I don't believe we've got a consultant report file yet. John, do you want to start with if there's any updates on our side, and we move over to the applicant for any updates on their side?
Sure. So no updates on the town side. We are waiting on the review from the peer review consultant. They are working through this stuff now, and they hope to have something by the couple days this week. I believe the board was looking to schedule the site walk at the last meeting, and we postponed it until this meeting. So that's something the board might want to do. But otherwise, I don't have any other updates.
Okay. Does the applicant, I see Rick came onto camera, have any updates, or we can talk about when a site walk might make sense?
No particular updates. I guess the only thing from our end is we did prepare a quick graphic that showed, as the board may recall, the conversation came up about whether these houses were going to be connected to sewer versus septic, or some of them were. We did prepare a graphic that showed the difference in land disturbance and clearing that would take place with septic, and submitted that to the DPW and copied John, asking for their consideration in allowing sewer. So I don't know if that's something John wants to share with the board at this time or at a later date. Other than that, no updates from our end.
John, do you have that handy? If you just want to show it quickly since we referenced it.
Hold on. Why don't you move on with the next thing and I will find it.
Sure.
Well,
One of the things we wanted to do for the site walk was make sure that I think one of the things we wanted was to have be able to review the peer report, but it sounds like that's coming soon. The other thing was to have the lot lines staked out. Is that something that's been done or could be done before we schedule a site walk, Rick?
Yeah, we don't have every single lot line staked out. We are staking out the center of the roadway and some of the property corners, and then at least the surveyors will do that. And then from there, we can certainly indicate where, you know, lots and houses will go. So the surveyors are, I didn't confirm it. I believe they were on site today. It's supposed to be on site tomorrow, so it's imminent.
Okay. So we've got 2 Saturdays before the next planning board meeting, the 10th and the 17th. Is one of those better or worse for the applicant, Rick? If they're roughly the same, we can go through.
Right. I think this Saturday would be preferable, but no, I don't think necessarily strong preference.
Okay. And so for the board, any preference between the 10th or the 17th morning to do a site walk?
No preference, just the earlier the better if possible.
Earlier in the day?
Yeah, like 8:30.
How's everybody else feel?
17th is better for me.
17th.
I can't do either, so I'd be happy to go with someone after they go through if they wanted to show me, but yeah, neither of those works for me.
All right, I hear a slight preference for the 17th, early on the 17th. Does anybody have a problem? I tend to like 8:30, but I think that's early for a lot of people. Did anybody have a problem with 8:30?
No.
Okay. Rick, is 8:30 on the 17th good for you?
Yes, I would. Sure.
Okay. So we'll do 8:30 on the 17th. And if I recall, we talked about there was an area to pull in.
Yeah.
24.
24. Okay. All right, so we got the sidewalk. I think John is still looking for. Are you still looking for the graphic? No.
Found it.
Okay, you want to just put that up?
Yep. Oh boy, they changed the sharing option. Now I can't find what document it is.
Mm.
I think this is it. Yeah, there we go. All right. Can everyone see that?
See the letter is a.
Yeah, an
Yeah.
email. There you go.
Make it bigger.
Yep.
Yeah, so you can.
Rick, yep.
Sure. So on this plan, so as you may recall, the lots closer to the street, lots 1 and 5, are part of the sewer district. So we believe that those would be allowed to connect regardless. Lots 2, 3, and 4 are the ones in question. This plan, you know, obviously this plan is more conceptual. It's not fully engineered, but shows septic systems on those lots. And you know, the green gives you a sense of where the limits of clearing would be. And then if we can go to the next plan, you can see those limits have come in, you know, quite a bit on those lots without the septic systems. So we have a little bit of, as the board may recall, in the comments back from the various town boards, the DPW said that the sewer connections were unlikely to be approved because septic was available, and the Board of Health said that septic was unlikely to be approved because sewer was available. So obviously we can't accommodate both of those requests. Our hope would be to go with sewer to limit the amount of land clearing and tree clearing that would need to take place, and unless the sewer system is so close to capacity that these 3 houses will material impact it, we asked the DPW to give some consideration to that request, provided this graphic. So far, we haven't heard a response.
All right, thank you for walking us through those. Any other comments? Any comments from the board? Sorry, Jane. Yep.
Just to point out that I think it would be more beneficial, especially to keep the trees if we can, and urge the ability to tie into the septic would be a possibility.
Yeah, I know some
Yeah,
abutters
that-
had raised concerns about some of the
Mm.
clearing. Sorry, Rick, you had a comment?
It was basically the same comment. I know that in the meeting and outside of the meetings, we have heard concerns from abutters to maintain as much of the trees and the buffer as possible. So the sewer connections would help in that regard.
Through the chair, wouldn't we wait? Lucia, you can go first if you'd like.
Parker, you want to?
Yeah, I believe, weren't we waiting on a feedback from DPW on that front as well? Or is my memory totally mistaken on that?
I don't recall that we were waiting, but John, do you know?
I don't. Were we waiting on any specific thing from them?
Like Carrie's comment on the sewer hookup and like why they weren't going to go that route or weren't recommending it, or did we already get clarification on that and I'm just totally misremembering?
No, I don't think we got any clarification on that.
Sean, in the end here, what does this come down to the planning board in terms of which one we allow them to go with, or is this really the DPW? If they're going to do sewer, the DPW needs to make the decision that it's allowed to be connected.
Yeah, DPW is gonna have to make that decision. Planning board doesn't control the sewer allotment.
Lucia, do you have a question?
I guess if it's up to DPW, then I think part of the argument potentially for the applicant is that 40% falls under the sewer district and that it only adds 3 more properties, in addition to the abutters' concerns about removing more trees, which are also valid. So hopefully that would help.
Yeah, we have made that point, and as I said, so far they haven't responded, but I hope that they will.
Any other comments from the planning board before I open up to any public comments? Any comments from the public? Bob?
Yes, John, thank you.
Name and
Matthew,
address,
sorry.
please.
Yeah, it's Robert Cordner, 16 Chestnut Street. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, no, I certainly, maybe I'm stating the obvious, but we're in a butter, and the more green space that we can have, the better. And if I need to make a phone call maybe to the DPW and strongly suggest that they be sewers instead of septics, I'd be happy to do that. But just for the record, thank you.
All right, thank you for the comment. Anybody else in the public? I don't see anybody else on camera. Not seeing any other hands raised. Do we need to continue anything if beyond the hearing, John, or extend anything?
Does not look like it because the subdivision decision is due by October 23rd, so we have some time.
Okay. And August 19th is the next meeting, right? So I would entertain a motion to continue this to August 19th.
So moved.
Second.
All right. We'll go through a roll call vote. Elise,
Yes.
Lucia,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Vic,
Yes.
and Matthew Bronca is a yes. All right, so we'll continue this to The 19th. Thank you. And we've got the site walk on the 17th at 8:30.
Allison has her hand up.
Sorry, Bob had one more comment.
Yes.
I
Mr.
Oh,
Chairman.
sorry, Alyssa had a comment. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that if we're able to attend that site walk on
Oh, yes.
17th, that
Of
You
course.
can
Sorry.
join
Yeah,
me.
about the sidewalk. It's open to the public. Feel free to join us 8:30 on August 17th. Nothing substantial in terms of deliberation is permitted amongst the board, but obviously anyone in the public's allowed to join us and walk around, see the plot, point anything factual out that would be that you have concerns of, and feel free to attend the next meeting on the 19th, where we discuss the hearing further.
Okay, thank you.
And through the chair, just a reminder for the planning board members, not even anything substantive, no deliberation at all. Clarifying questions only. The public can do what they want, but the board, this isn't a posted meeting, not taking minutes, so no deliberation.
Thank you, John. Alyssa, did you have comment on
Oh,
that?
yes. I just wanted to know if we were able to attend the site walk as well,
Yes.
but you already answered that. But yeah, no, I put together like 5 or so slides just voicing my concerns. Unfortunately, my laptop's about to die, but if I could at some point show you that, I would really appreciate that.
Sure. I think the next hearing would be a good time to raise those. John, maybe we can just remember to make sure we have safe time for some public comment in the slides.
Sure, and if
The
she can
19th?
send them to me via PDF. I can put them in the shared folder so the planning board has them ahead of time. And then
Great.
we can use those to present.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Moving on.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is
Is
it-
this about the
Yes, it's
sidewalk?
about it. It's about the property itself. So we live
Name?
on one. Oh, it's Bonnie Scola. My apologies. I'm in the car too. I just apologize because it keeps cutting out. We live on 1 Benson in the cul-de-sac, in between 0 Benson and 1. And there's a small strip of land. And I want to confirm just one thing. The opening on Benson, I don't think exceeds 15 feet. And it travels along the entire property line in between both homes.
So
My
are-
question is,
is this about Chestnut Street or is this about?
it's about Chestnut, but if you look at plot number 3, that little plot of land goes all the way down in between the 2 homes out to Benson.
Okay.
And I
So-
don't think,
Yeah, if you have, so I definitely want to hear the comment. We've continued the hearing to the 19th. I think it'd be better
yeah.
when
It's
we have
just a
time
question. Yeah, it's not a it's just a question. Trying to understand what's on the plans. What is the proposed use of that strip of land?
John, is this something that you would be equipped to answer via email, or is this something that is really just for the applicant to address?
I can answer it by email or the applicant can address it. Either
Okay.
way.
Would you be able to send John an email asking the question? It might be more expedient than trying to have the discussion right now.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right. Next item on the list was a new public hearing for 147 Hayden Row. Right, I'm in the right spot on this. I will entertain a motion to open the public hearing for 147 Hayden Row, major project site plan and stormwater management, Charleswood Elementary School, Hopkinton School Department.
So moved.
Second,
All right, and roll call vote. Elise,
Yes.
Lucia,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Parker,
yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Vic,
Yes.
and Matthew Vronka is yes. All right. think we usually start with the applicant giving a brief background, right? So we usually do the applicant first, John, and then all right. So a lot of people came off of or went onto video. Does the applicant have somebody who would like to give us an overview of the project?
Sure. Matt,
Chris?
I can take that. So we have a slide presentation. If we could enable for Michelle to share.
Sure, Don.
You should be good to go.
So I'll just do a quick introduction. I think that this project is fairly well known within the town. We've been working with the elementary school building committee for a number of years at this point to move this project forward. And the planning board is our next step on that long journey. The project is a 176,000 square foot elementary school that would replace the current Elmwood School and would combine the current 4th grade with the 2nd and 3rd grade that is at the Elmwood School into the new Charleswood School. It's located on a plot of land that is currently occupied or contiguous with the Marathon School, which was built a number of years ago. I think it's well known within town the reasons behind this project, that Hopkins has experienced really amazing growth over the last few years, and that the schools have done a lot to deal with the additional stresses of that growth. This is an end of life replacement for the existing Elmwood School. So the building is designed to create a new location to take those students, as well as to alleviate some of the system-wide crowding that is occurring as a result of other grades being larger than the school facilities can handle. So by bringing those grades in, we free up space in the middle school and also alleviate some of the pressures that the Hopkins project that this board has recently seen has an opportunity to correct. With me tonight is Michelle Kaiserman from Samiotis. She's the civil engineer, as well as Chris Kenny from Vertex, who is with us as the owner's project manager. Dan Colley is here representing the architect, Perkins Eastman. I believe we have Ashley Cullen from Traverse Landscape Architects, and I think we also have Claire Hodgeboom from LEC, the environmental consultant, and Mike Santos from VHB, who is the traffic engineer. So I will turn it over to Michelle to walk you through some of the civil site features.
Thank you, Chris. Again, I'm Michelle Kajman, and let's see, why is this not? Right. So general, there we go. It is now in focus. So site locus, just to orient, Hayden Row and the existing Marathon Elementary School, the site as is currently, and then in red, this is all town property, and then this little area is conservation land. So the proposed layout, so again, Marathon School and the driveway would come up this way, and here is to Hayden Row. So you can come in from either side. There's a rotary to move around, come in. You have the main parking lot, the school, and there are playing fields here, overflow parking. And then in the rear of the building, there is additional play areas. And then in between the building wings, you have landscape features, outdoor classrooms, rain garden area. The service area is here on the south. And so this is just the general layout.
And if I can, before you go on, Michelle, if I could just, one note that we didn't mention about the site locus, currently the site interconnects the driveways between the existing Marathon School and 140 would create a new driveway at 147 Hayden Row, which is a current town-owned property that's a single-family home that is no longer occupied, and I believe may have been condemned. That provides two accesses onto the site that would both feed into that rotary, as well as two accesses that are interconnected between the parking lots of Marathon School and the future Charles Wood School. The road that continues around the outside provides for our active car queuing during drop off and pickup at the school. So cars would come in at the rotary, they would take that side road along what are the PE athletic fields and queue around the back of the building. That provides additional queuing space to allow more cars to wait for drop off and pickup off of Hayden Row, and we expect that it will pull cars off of Hayden Row. We also have a significant, much more than we'll initially need, space for bus drop off, and those buses will be shared between the Marathon School as well as the Charles Wood School to ensure that we can efficiently move students onto and off of the site with our planning layout.
So as Chris mentioned, the circulation plan with arrows, so yellow are the school bus circulation movements, and then pink is that parent drop off and pick up circulation pattern. So going back, so just general kind of grading and layout, some of the rationale on why the site is laid out as it is because there's also wetlands located on the site that have been flagged. So we are in front of conservation for that. But you can see here outlined in purple is the actual resource areas in here and here and here, and then yellow is those buffers. So to work with conservation and to comply with those environmental regulations, we're trying to stay out of them as much as possible. So kind of see why things are laid out to get as far away from those as possible. And so again, the circulation around the school and the proposed planting plan. And we have Ashley who can walk through it a little bit.
Everybody, Ashley, Colleen, Traverse Landscape Architects. Thank you so much for having me. So we do understand that there's a substantial amount of clearing as a part of this project, but we are proposing a significant revegetation effort with shade trees lining the entire entry drive and in and around the school, including the rear drive around that back parent loop between the fields and the play areas. I just also wanted to make another note that back loop around the school is actually closed during the daytime. That will be used as parent drop off. So that can be actually closed off, and that allows for clear circulation for the students so that they can access all those rear playgrounds from the back of the school without having to cross any vehicular traffic. So plenty of shade trees being proposed, lots of native deciduous evergreen shrubs. And then I think what's also special about this project is we do have field space already built into the design that creates the necessary lawn space for the kids to play. So you'll see that in the PE space, and then a smaller field space between the playgrounds. So the remainder of the property, we're actually revegetating with combinations of wildflower seed mix and bioretention mix, as well as like a naturalization restoration mix. So this really, I think, plays well with the programming and educational programming of the school, but it also creates a lot of much needed habitat in and around in a way that's not just lawn space. So aside from that, we do have plaza space again at the front bus drop off, and then some really great outdoor classrooms located in the courtyards of the school that feed out to those playgrounds. And happy to answer any questions after this presentation as well.
Thank you. And then so as part of this, there's an erosion and sediment control plan that would be enacted in the start of construction. So the pink is compost filter socks and silt fence. And then we also have larger coir logs near the lower portions of the site. And so that is around the limits of the entire site to hold the sedimentation from escaping the limit of work line. There's going to be construction entrances coming into the site. And then, so all this gray hatching is the limit of clearing. And then there are temporary sedimentation basins and swales with check dams throughout the site to be able to control and direct stormwater during that construction phasing. So it will pond in these yellow areas and the water slow down by those check dams. So the general utilities layout, so in green is the stormwater management areas, and then in orange is sewer. And so with sewer, it is being pumped up and over towards Hayden Row, and then it will connect into the gravity system. Water, we have 2 lines coming in, and it feeds to a fire protection tank and then into the building. We have a domestic water that loops around with hydrants off of it to provide coverage around the site and the building. And then we have electrical coming into the building, and there is no gas as part of this project. So hold on 1 second. Let me stop sharing. It seems my Bluebeam has crashed. Sorry about that, everyone.
I have it as well, Michelle, if you need me to
Alright.
share it.
Nope, I'm just going to open up the actual PowerPoint. I think that will be not crashing. Okay. Let me reshare again. PowerPoint. So, and so this is the other half of the site, kind of to the left-hand side or the west. And so, again, the sewer from the building is being pumped, and then it goes by gravity and connects into the gravity system in Hayden Row, the water connection, the electrical, and then drainage is flowing from Marathon down towards the Rotary. And so so then here is a close view of what is connecting in Hayden Row. That we have the domestic and fire protection, the electrical, and the sewer, and drainage is outletting to the wetlands, but is not connecting into the street. So site will be, there's going to be electrical and lighting throughout the site. So it will be lit up. And so there'll be posts and lighting coming up the driveways, and then again around the site. So for the stormwater systems, there are numerous underground and above ground stormwater systems. So we have infiltration system 1 that is close to Hayden Row, and this is a leaching stormwater system. There's subsurface systems 2 and 3 and 4 that are also leaching into the ground. So it recharges the groundwater table. Then you have subsurface detention system 1 and 2. That is a closed system, and so it does not allow recharge, but it slows the rate of water down because we're meeting both the peak rates and the volumes of reducing from the post-construction compared to existing conditions. We have a detention basin in the rear of the building and a rain garden that's also able to be used as an outdoor classroom. And then some vegetated swales here in red. So subsurface, so this is in red is highlighted the piping of the stormwater system. So back to this, so subsurface system 1, so the stormwater coming down from Marathon is captured into subsurface system 1. 1 then outlets into partially into 2, and then partially outlets to the wetlands. Subsurface system 2 then partially discharges to the wetlands and overflows towards the large system in the rear here that outlets to the detention basin. Subsurface system 3 is connected where it collects the stormwater from the parking lot here and goes into infiltration system 2 and then 3, and then will outlet to the rear of the site here. And then the driveways around the back here and the building goes to the, well, 2/3 of the building goes to the infiltration system 4 that outlets into the basin and then outlets into the wooded area. And then a portion of the building, this portion of the wing will then go to the detention basin and then outlet into the woods. And then we have various outlet control structures to control the rate of flow that water is leaving these systems, because we don't want there to be erosion or to act like a fire hose or anything like that. So everything is designed to be controlled at the rate of water leaving and then the timing of that. So then, and then this is the stormwater again in relation to the wetlands as we work around the site. And then we have Dan, if you want to speak to the building elevations themselves.
Sure. The building is largely a masonry building. That's a combination of different scale masonry units, and it's also organized in a way that is to break down that scale. So when the little kids come up to the building and when dropped off, that there's a lower scale kind of entrance experience. And then the back of the building are the 3 academic wings, which are 3 stories each. And that's for a reason. We want to be able to allow the district to organize the school by grade or by floor. So each wing can be a grade, or each floor can be a grade. So it's largely an exercise in trying to scale a large building for the smaller students, and so that they don't feel, I mean, this is the largest building that they will interact with on a daily basis. And one of those, the district and the building committee and us included, we're all really interested in making sure that the building scale would be manageable and approachable. So this is, I believe, the typical classroom elevation, or at least it's from the side from the gymnasium. This is the front elevation, is the top. The gymnasium is on the left, cafeteria is on the right. In the center is the administrative areas. And you can see in the background receding with a different color are those classroom wings. And this elevation below is the north side of the gym, and then that classroom wing again. One of the other things we're trying to do is reduce or minimize the amount of glass so that our window to wall ratio is as low as we possibly can get. We usually try to target somewhere in the low 20% range, 24, 25% at the most. And that allows for a highly sustainable and energy efficient building. So we try to maximize the amount of daylight and minimize the amount of area to lose that necessary heat and cooling, because the windows are the biggest place where heat and cool leave your building. This 2 elevations here are a typical classroom. South side, you can see the cafeteria on the left. that classroom wing, the third classroom wing is on the right, and on the top elevation is the rear of the building, and that large curtain wall area towards the left side is actually the entrance. So one of the things about the experience of the entrance is you come through that front door, and then you are greeted by seeing right out into the courtyards and the play areas and out into nature beyond. So the connections between nature and the building were also critically important to everybody on the design team. Here's a few more technical elevations, but these are just classroom elevations. On the bottom is the third southern classroom wing from the front of the building approach and the cafeteria. The one in the middle, cafeteria, is on the right. That's that glass area. It has a clear story glass element that allows light to filter in from above. And then the classroom wing, that's the south classroom wing. And the upper one looks like, I can't read that from here, but it looks to be the elevation of the, again, from the cafeteria. It looks like the southern wing rear elevation, and that lowest first floor area is the area to the most southern side. One of the other things we did was we tried to step the building down, because the site does kind of roll down towards that neighborhood, and we tried to lower the building a couple feet as we moved across the site. And then the lowest portion of the building is adjacent to that part of the site, so that the neighbors on that side are not confronted with the 3-story building. They actually have some relief there.
So that's just a general overview of the site and the proposed project. So we'll turn it back over.
Michelle, I think we had, I think Matt was going to do traffic. He had 2 slides in the PDF version that I don't think are in your your PowerPoint version. I can bring those up. I have them available.
Okay.
Do we want to pull up the couple slides?
Grabbing them now. Bear with me.
Sure. Okay. Good evening. Thank you for your time tonight. My name is Michael Santos with VHB. We are the transportation consultant on the project. I'm just going to take go over this briefly, give you a high-level overview of the traffic study that was submitted with the planning board submittal. So we did conduct a traffic impact and access study that was submitted with the planning board submission. The study was conducted back in 2023. We looked at the segment of Hayden Row Street and also Grove Street, as you can see on this map, all the way from the intersection of Pleasant Street to the north, all the way down to Chestnut Street in the south. We looked at basically how all of the schools work together. So we did traffic counts at the high school driveways, the middle school driveways, the Hopkins School driveway marathon. So we conducted traffic counts and evaluated the entire corridor as part of the traffic study, which is a little bit above and beyond what we would typically do for a traffic study for a school like this. The traffic study also, we project out traffic volumes into the future. We did obtain the MSBA 10-year projections for the town of Hopkinton, so we could account for future enrollment growth when we were doing our study. We looked at specific time periods in the morning when students are dropped off. So the high school and middle school operate on an earlier schedule. So we looked at when they drop off in the morning, and also when the elementary schools drop off in the morning. And then also in the afternoon, we looked at the peak hours for when the high school, middle school, and elementary schools are dismissed. So, and just as part of the traffic study, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here, but we did focus on site circulation. I think that might be the next slide if we want to show that. Okay, yeah, this is pretty good. So we're in the, as part of the study, we did develop some conceptual plans for Hayden Row Street for site access. They're a little bit more detailed than this, but they're still in progress, and we've been coordinating with the town of Hopkinton DPW on refining those improvements. But as you can see, the existing school, Marathon School, is currently operated by an unsignalized intersection on Hayden Row Street. The Charleswood School, we're constructing a new driveway on Hayden Row Street. And one of the things that we spent a lot of time looking at is how vehicles is the vehicular circulation at both of these driveways. Another very important part of this project is the cross connection between the two schools. So you can travel from Charleswood to Marathon and back without actually having to go out onto Hayden Row Street. So we looked at how we can best have these two intersections operate. So what we came up with is we're proposing a traffic signal at the Marathon School, and then the other Charleswood School will be unsignalized. And the traffic signal, and we looked at kind of both options, signalizing the Charleswood School and leaving Marathon unsignalized. But we feel like what we have proposed in the traffic study is the best option. And really what that allows us to do is put a traffic signal at Marathon School, which will allow, all left turning vehicles from both schools will be able to exit there. So we're going to restrict lefts coming out of Charleswood. So if you want to turn left, you have to go out of Marathon. We're going to extend the left turn lane at Marathon School. Right now, I think it's probably about 100 to 150 feet. It doesn't have enough capacity even for the buses to turn into the school. So we're going to be lengthening that lane, I think, to around 350 to 400 feet. And then also there will be another left turn lane to turn into the Charleswood School. And all of this work will be within the existing public right of way. So there's not going to be any private property impacts, outside of the public right of way. And also there's just another comment about pedestrian connectivity. So right now there's a rectangular rapid flashing beacon at Marathon. Again, that crosswalk will be improved and it'll be put under traffic signal control. So there'll be a traditional pedestrian push button that will connect across to the west side of Hayden Row Street. And then at the driveway at Charleswood School, we're going to be installing an RRFB there. So that's just going to be one of those pedestrian actuated flashing apparatuses that will be installed there. They'll connect to the existing sidewalks on the west side of Hayden Row Street. And let's see. Just one additional thing. We did look at vehicular speeds on Hayden Row Street, and we understand there's kind of various speed regulations up and down the street. And as you kind of get south of where the high school and middle school are, vehicle speeds do tend to pick up. The traffic signal, we think, will help maybe slow traffic down a little bit, just because some vehicles will have to come to a stop. It'll also create gaps for people exiting driveways and side streets. It might be difficult to turn left from Hayden Row Street onto Hayden Row Street from some of the side streets. So we think that we'll see some benefit there. But again, that's just a very, very general overview. I understand that this will probably be peer reviewed, and there'll be more to come on traffic. So thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you. Anything else from the applicant right now?
We do have with us, just for the committee's knowledge, or for the board's knowledge, the chair of the ESBC is with us tonight, as well as the facilities director, the superintendent, and the associate superintendent for business and finance. They're available for question and answer. I didn't get a chance to reach out to them to see if they want to speak tonight, but I yield to the board as to whether you'd rather ask questions and then hear from them in public comment, or if you'd like to hear from them now if they're interested in speaking.
If any of them have anything they want to add at this moment, I can give them the floor. All right. Thank you, everybody, for attending in case we had any questions. If the applicant is set for the moment, I believe staff report is next. John?
Through the chair, not a ton to report from my end on this one. It seems pretty straightforward. It's a pretty big school. They're gonna go through the whole peer review process and we'll flesh out all the problems there. But one of the things that I did notice, and the applicant said that it is a known issue and they are addressing it separately, is that the parking doesn't seem to work with the zoning. They're providing, what is it, 200 parking spaces. They said that they're required to do 300. Planning board is able to reduce the number of parking on a site plan. That's something that the planning board is allowed to do as long as the parking that is not going to be constructed. So the amount difference between what's required and what's provided is shown on the plan as being able to be constructed, and it's just not constructed, so it can be built in the future. That wasn't done, so the applicant said that they're working through that issue and they know that it's there. And then that's also going to throw off the EV calculation because it's going to be based on the parking that they've provided and what's required. So there's just that question that needs to be answered from my end. The rest was captured through fire department, public works, health department, and then what will be captured through the peer review.
And you're working through the parking situation right now, so we'll hold off on that until a later meeting.
We're in discussions with the zoning enforcement officer about that issue, and we just don't have anything to share with the committee at this time.
Makes sense. What does the timeline look like for peer review?
I have not heard from Time Bond yet, but they're usually pretty quick to turn around. So I would expect something this week, but I can definitely check with them tomorrow.
Any questions from the board at this point? Jane?
Have you given any thought to improving or adding on or not doing anything with the sidewalks in front of the schools?
Anyone from the applicant?
So currently the plan is to leave the sidewalk across the street and create the two connections that VHB shared with the sidewalks across the street. Our initial thought in not investigating sidewalks on both sides of the street is many of you may have noticed from driving down Hayden Row that we staked the location of the roadway improvements that were discussed with DPW. And there is a significant impact to a lot of the abutters as a result of the right-of-way work that's being done there. And rather than impose upon the abutters, we thought it was a safer approach to take people across the street. There is a sidewalk that will lead from both entrances all the way into the building. And that does provide the opportunity for folks to cross the street at either the RRFB or the signalized intersection and take a sidewalk all the way to the intended school.
Chris, I would also add that there's an interconnected sidewalk from the Charleswood to the Marathon School, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Don't see any other questions from the, Lucia?
I know we're going to come back to parking, but I think in reading that, I just wanted to say, having had a child at Marathon for several years now at this point, parking is a really big issue at Marathon. So in looking at 180 staff members and 200 parking spaces for this new school, that definitely was a concern for me. So I'm curious to hear more about that either now or in the future.
Is Michael or Chris? Yep.
Yeah,
Chris?
we are looking at the overall count. It is something that we're studying. There's an opportunity with two schools next to each other to have shared use for surge days of parking. You could have parents' night on alternate nights for Marathon and the Charleswood School. We also looked at the possibility of parallel parking along the interconnection of roads, creating additional supply. But in discussion with the district, we find that parking is typically used for event-based parking and not in the course of the ordinary school day. And so the focus was on creating opportunities for those surge days, such as the additional 60 spaces at the end of the PE field, as the focus of that parking. There's a child care facility rate for parking in the zoning regulations, but I don't believe that Hopkinton has a codified parking count for schools. And so that's part of the discussion that we're having with the zoning enforcement officer. One of the things that was proposed was a sharing of parking for those high parking count days with what's available at Marathon, or vice versa, as a result of the proposed project. And that's an ongoing discussion that we don't have the results of yet. And if anyone on my team has anything to add to that, I don't know, Dan, if you want to add anything.
No, I think that sums up right now what our position is, or where we're at.
Elise?
I'm not sure if you would know the answer to this, but in terms of parking, do you know if Charleswood is going to have like a drive-through pickup for the students? Because at Marathon you have to park and wait in line and physically walk in and pick up your kid. So if Charleswood has sort of like a drive-through pickup and drop-off option for both dismissal and arrival, then I think that would help me make my decision about parking. Or because I also have a child at Marathon, and when you pick up in the afternoon, it's a mess and people are parked all in the fire lane. And to me, that just raises so many red flags. So I'm just curious what the dismissal will be like at the other school, because that also concerns me about the parking space numbers.
Be happy to walk you through that.
Yeah, and Chris, I could jump in really quickly. You'll notice when you did look at the site plan, the loop around the back of the school is pretty extensive. It's over 2,000 feet. So it has a very large capacity, and that was really deliberate so that you could have an extensive pickup and drop off. And Chris, I don't know if you don't mind with your cursor just kind of outlining that loop.
So currently we have a loop that would be separated during the day, so non-pickup and drop off. We have a gate that's located here, and we have a gate that's located here. The intent would be that as parents arrive via the signalized intersection, they can take this road through the rotary, and they begin queuing around the back of the school after that gate is opened. By controlling the gate, you make sure that you don't have unreleased kids in the back of the school at that time, which is important for the student safety. And it also ensures that you don't have parents, you know where your parents are at any given time as they surround the building. The drop-off pickoff point would be located directly to the south of the building here, which is adjacent to where the cafeteria is, which helps for marshaling the kids as they're getting ready to go out. The parents would pull up, and through a series of sidewalks and staff, we would match the appropriate child to the appropriate parent, similar to some of the systems that are used now. And we have significantly more space for that to occur. I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but I believe it was in the neighborhood of 190 or 200 cars. That we believe that we could queue here and still be able to get buses in and out. The buses separately use a completely different entrance, so they don't take this detour like the parents would. So they can come to the school, pick up the students, and then swap the buses here with the buses at Marathon and do 2 stages of bus pickup. So they could be staged in the gym, and that allows staff to manage the students in a safe way to the cars, and it allows the cars to back up without overwhelming the entrance roads into the school. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, any questions from the public? Please raise your hand, or Mr. and Mrs. Carey?
Mute.
Okay.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you fine.
Okay, all right.
Can you
I
state
just
your
had a
address
question.
and name, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. George and Gail Carey, 1 Bryan Lane.
Thank you.
Okay, the school is in our backyard. And we think schools are good neighbors, so we don't have a problem with that. We want to go on record. But that stormwater thing, the schematic that I last saw in the bottom right, it showed the water exiting towards our property. And I'm concerned that the grade there goes all downhill anyways, following an old cart road. And I'm kind of concerned about how much water is going to be coming out there and where is it going to go after it comes from there.
So there's some requirements that are required to meet for the stormwater management. But Chris, do you have any specific answers right now to that?
Michelle, I think you spoke to this a little bit, and I'll bring it up on screen again.
Yeah, so I can share my screen right now.
Sure.
Screen. So this is the stormwater system, and of just the rear property. So the regulations say that, so in the current conditions, stormwater, it rains on the site and a certain amount of water leaves the site. And part of this submission is that we modeled what that existing conditions looks like and how much water is falling on the site and how much is leaving the site. And the regulation says that in the proposed conditions, the stormwater leaving the site cannot exceed the existing conditions. So we have designed the various stormwater systems and modeled them to show that the amount of water that is leaving the site will not exceed the existing conditions. So while some of the stormwater is going to wetlands that are in the site, kind of on the west-hand side at the rear of the site, we are slowly releasing water into the woods, and that'll go into the woods. And part of that is that there's also root uptake as part of that system design. So it's not just an open hose just going into the backyard. So it's controlled and timed, but there's design that the water is picked up from the systems and they're slowed down, they're able to recharge back into the ground, and then the water that is not able to recharge into the ground does flow over land, similar to kind of how the site works now. So water does flow over land, but in the stormwater report that we submitted, and it will be part of the peer review process, is that we're showing that in the proposed conditions, we're actually reducing the amount of water leaving the site compared to existing conditions.
And Michelle, for the Carey's reference, the large green area between the two playgrounds, that rectangular area, that would be underground infiltration. So the idea would be that the stormwater from the site, including along the road line, would be piped to one of those green structures, and that would give an opportunity for the water to absorb back into the ground up to a certain point. And to the right of the proposed drawing, we would be creating a new pond that doesn't exist now, where that water would rest. And we would have to overflow to a certain point before the water would discharge from that pond, correct?
Correct.
In addition to that, I think you said this during your earlier remarks, that cluster of, I think it's 6 structures in the bottom right of the drawing, that's controlled stormwater discharge. So that can't be fast moving water coming out of that structure based on the way it's designed.
So those are dry wells, so it gives additional opportunity for the water to recharge back into the ground And then there's stone ripraps around it that, so once in the larger storm event, the water does start bubbling up through the grates, and it's controlled by how many grates and the sizing, and the stone around that acts to make sure that it doesn't cause erosion, but it's controlling the rate of the water that's coming out as well, and the timing of it in the duration of a storm.
Okay, can we? Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
I appreciate your time.
Any other questions from the public? Do we, for the planning board, do we feel that it's expedient to schedule a site walk at this point, or wait till we have, it sounds like the peer review's coming up, hopefully coming up shortly. Do we want to talk about scheduling a site walk, or hold off on that for now? Or I guess.
I think it's more useful if we have the peer review beforehand so that we can ask relevant questions or follow-up questions.
Okay, so we'll hold off to next meeting after we've had some time to discuss and go back and forth on the peer review. Anybody have any different opinions before we move on? Since we have everybody here, any more questions from the planning board or the public for the assembled group of people presenting? No. Lucia?
Yeah, so going back to queuing at pickup, I'm wondering if you looked at how long the line queues at Elmwood currently, and how long when the loop is gated, like how long the parents will be stretching out, given that it's second, third, and fourth. And then you also will have buses trying to go around any parents who are queuing beyond that one little strip of road that's on the north side of the building. I'm just thinking because at Elmwood, the line of cars queues out onto the road. And the buses are right now able to go around, essentially like driving on the wrong side of the driveway into the school, and that's how they get around it. And I don't know if with a rotary, if parents are backed up into that rotary, if that would still allow for buses to move at pickup time.
I believe we did, Dan, we did parking counts at
Yes.
Elmwood in addition to what we have. And I think that once we have the peer review and those comments, some of the supplemental information that we provide could also be queue length comparisons of what's available at Elmwood now versus what we're providing here. I think that might help to address the board's concern. It is, I believe, significantly longer distances that are involved. There will be some traffic management, as there are with any school drop-off condition, but it's a significantly longer distance, I believe, than what we have at Elmwood.
And if I could just add through the chair,
Sure.
John Graziano, chair of the ESBC, for those who don't know me, a number of the design decisions that we made to this point as a committee were with exactly what you're talking about in mind. This is, we recognize obviously the traffic impact of adding another school to this area, and both setting the school back a bit further from the road. That was really intentional to increase the length of that queue so we could pull as many of those cars off of the road. And we took some pretty conservative assumptions when it comes to even, you're probably going to pick up some efficiencies and drop off and pick up, because there are a lot more people who have a kid at Marathon and a kid at Elmwood. So or the new Charleswood. So you'll be getting one trip through, but we tried to be as conservative as possible, so we didn't create those backups that we know are being seen right now. And the lengths of these queues are significantly larger on site than they are on the current buildings.
I guess on that point of parents picking up in both locations, is there going to be any issue with timing if somebody's got to be at both schools and waiting to get through line?
In all honesty, it should actually really reduce that problem, because right now for parents who have that, they got to get across town. And so this will significantly, like we can't obviously fully predict this, but I think this will actually have a beneficial impact at that time on crosstown traffic, because those parents who are doing that will be able to use the connecting roads between the sites, pick up however many students they have at both schools without ever leaving the site. And from a time perspective, it'll be able to be accommodated much more easily than having to book it all the way from Marathon to Elmwood to try to, get your kid before they call.
We actually looked at a number of synergies that relate to that. Currently, you have buses at Hopkins pick up students and take them to Marathon. And the release of those buses is coordinated by the traffic guards. So they'll release all the buses from one school and release them at the other. And so you have competing cross road buses at both schools. At the same time, you have one of the busier stretches of road in town, and all the parents attempting to turn left in a turning lane that we're going to grow by 3 times the size it currently is. So the improvement should overall help that, in that we're reorienting sort of the groupings of buses so that we would have Marathon and Charleswood sharing, and then Hopkins and the middle school sharing. And it's actually going to reduce, I think, 71 bus routes across town as a result of that working together. So you're taking bus routes off of the streets, and you're giving more opportunity for queuing parents to turn in a lane outside the flow of traffic. And so when we looked at that, it was a net improvement.
Hopefully removing 71 bus routes is a nice savings to the bottom line there. Any other questions from anybody, planning board or public? So if we're expecting peer review in the upcoming weeks, it seems like we'll have something discussed on August 19th. So it seems prudent to continue till then.
Through the chair.
Yep.
Is the town planning staff confident we'll have a peer review with ample time to respond?
John?
I would have to talk to Time Bond. I would hope they would have something for you again this week.
Okay.
And I check with them tomorrow, but I will talk to them tomorrow and press them to say we need something for next meeting where you guys have a chance to respond before the meeting.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how far in advance of the meeting, because the way the calendar falls, we're meeting again in 2 weeks. So if we were to receive it in the latter half of this week, we could certainly put something together in response, but that won't come together instantly. And if there's a lead time to have it in the board's hands to review for the 19th, we'd just like to know that so that we know that it's practical. We could also continue to the 19th and then, pending discussions with staff, delay that hearing if necessary, depending on where the peer review comes out. I wouldn't want to reappear before you with the same information and just more questions.
Part of my thought for the 19th is if we have something and even just a cursory response, it would give us time to schedule a site walk with some information. But I will leave it up to you whether you would like the 19th or the 9th.
Okay, why don't we go with the 19th with that in mind? And if nothing else, we can get you on site. And we recently did that same walk with the Conservation Commission, so we have all the materials ready.
Excellent. So in that case, I'll entertain a motion to continue the what's the full name of this? We'll continue the hearing on the already scroll down. It's a long section.
Major project site plan and stormwater management permit for Charleswood School.
Until the August 19th. meeting.
So moved.
See a second?
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote. Elise,
Yes.
Lucia,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Vic,
Yes.
and Matthew Vronka is a yes. So we'll continue to the 19th. We'll see you again there. Hopefully we'll have peer review set, but at the very least we'll schedule a site walk, hopefully. Thank you very much for everybody that came on for that. We have one more hearing to open. New public hearing for 0 Benson Road, the amended definitive subdivision plan, Wade Camo. As the applicant, I will entertain a motion to open the new public hearing for 0 Benson Road, amended definitive subdivision plan.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and roll call vote. Elise,
Yes.
Lucia,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Vic,
Yes.
and Matthew Vronka is a yes. All right. Does the applicant online or somebody speaking for the applicant? Is that
So
Joe
through the
Marquette?
chair, they reached out prior to the meeting and said that they would like to continue.
Okay.
So I think they want to continue.
Do we have?
Nope, Joe Marquardt is on the call.
Okay, Joe, did you want to present anything, or do we just want to continue to a later
We'd
date?
like to continue. We were looking for input from legal counsel. Unfortunately, they are traveling and weren't able to connect via Zoom. So I think it'd be more prudent if we could pick this up, hopefully the 19th, but obviously we are amenable to whatever the board has time.
John, do we have any issues with the agenda for the 19th right now?
I don't believe so, but let me check. We have a new major project site plan and stormwater management for laborers. So that's an amendment, but it's a new hearing. And then the hearings that were continued tonight. So should be fine.
Okay. So I will entertain a motion to continue the public hearing on 0 Benson Road, amended definitive subdivision plan until August 19th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
And we'll do a roll call vote. Elise,
Yes.
Lucia,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Vic,
Yes.
and Matthew Vronka is a yes. So we'll see you on August 19th.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you for sticking around so late. Believe that is the last hearing. Decisions, public hearing. Any other concerns from the board before we entertain a motion to man, it's late. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Hearing nothing, our next meeting is August 19th, the 9th and 23rd, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
And we need a roll call vote. Elise,
Yes.
Lucia,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Vic,
Yes.
and Matthew Vronka is a yes. Thank you, everybody. We made it under the Zoom time. I didn't think we'd do that.
Yeah, great
See you
meeting.
see you all on the
Good meeting.
17th.
And just a
Don't
reminder.
forget to sign the Form Ks.
Thank you, Matthew.
Perfect. See you in the office, John.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye.